Alright guys, today's video going to be making some motor oil baits, also repainting a swim bait we found at a local lake, bringing that back to life. But first, I want to show you guys a couple of things we made recently for a national bait making competition that's happening this week. First of which was a grub that we made to look like this fire tiger jerk bait. First thing we did was we shot an orange tail. We came back, did a laminate for the body with the chartreuse and green with a little bit of black flake. For the hand poured portion of the competition, we entered our Cropster Ginger Ninja here, which is essentially just a mix of two semi-translucent oranges with a heavy amount of blue highlight powder pigment. This is one of those colors that's really easy to build but looks really cool. You can go for a lighter spring craw color or lay it on heavy for a heavier blue. Either way, hopefully one of these will be good enough to get us into the final round of the competition, which we should know sometime this week. Today we're going to be making up one of my all-time favorite colors when it comes to soft plastics. That's a motor oil, but some are a lot different from others. Obviously we're not going to be using the oil from your car because you probably haven't changed it in a long time, and if it looks like this, they just would not come out looking good at all. Instead, what we've done is we've set up kind of a shootout of sorts between two different colorants. We've got 2 cups of the exact same type of plastic. On the left here, we've got the MF motor oil, the updated recipe. On the right, we've got the new Dead On synthetic. There have been some changes to the MF motor oil recipe in the last couple of years because of a shortage of some of the original red pigments used in that, but that's either here nor there. Today, just comparing it to the new Dead On synthetic color, and at first glance, just looking at the color of the two through the dripper on each bottle, I can tell you they both have a very similar maroonish color. So we'll get that plastic up to temp, see what similarities they have, if any. Here we've got 1.5 cups of Dead On Plastix Craw 2 blend on each side to have a true side-by-side color comparison. Starting off with 25 drops of the MF motor oil color on the left. After giving that a good stir, pretty much what we expected, which was a crystal clear, transparent amber base with a nice chartreuse highlight and a bit of a red sheen to it, which is one of my favorite colors, especially when you use it in a trick worm with a chartreuse tail. Now we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side by putting 25 drops of the new synthetic, which is part of the new Color Morph series from Dead On Plastix. And although they did look very similar in color in the bottle, once we got it in the cup and started stirring it up, you could tell that they were not at all the same. One of which looks like brand new oil before you put it in your car, the other looked like the oil after. First thing we shot was the MF motor oil color. We've got a few different molds here. We've got a ribbon tail worm, a craw, and a grub. We're also going to be doing some hand pours just to show a color comparison of each, although you can already kind of see the clear night and day differences of the two. I love this one because you've got that crystal clear amber brown that's still thicker you go with the body, the more you'll see that green chartreuse kind of highlight to it and that red sheen. But pretty much as expected, like I said, with the MF color, when it comes to the new Dead On synthetic, that is night and day. This one ended up looking a little more like muddy water to me, which isn't to suggest that you can't get this to look like a decent motor oil by pulling it one way or another with some other pigments, which we're actually going to be attempting here in just a second. But my initial reaction to the Dead On synthetic does not really scream motor oil, at least not with the first 25 drops. Something that I would use for more of an earthworm or nightcrawler base. In fact, I've got a new project with Daniel Ailman up at Hook 'em Bait and Tackle in northern Colorado, where he asked us to design an artificial nightcrawler for him. This is one of those colors that's perfect for that. Add a little purple highlight powder to it. Real quick, we're going to try one modification, see if we can get this to look a little bit more like the MF motor oil. If you follow guys like the one and only Chris Jones from World Tours Fishing, you might have seen some of his tricks of the trade, and today we're going to be taking a similar approach. First, going to be adding some of that lure work chartreuse because of its transparency to get some of that green highlight to come out, and then 1 drop of red ended up turning into 2, which was a fatal mistake because not only would 1 already have been more than enough, 2 just leaned it completely on the red end of the spectrum. And now what was intended to look like motor oil was starting to look like tranny fluid. Added some additional chartreuse, a little bit more of the Dead On synthetic. No matter what, at least on my first attempt, so far, not able to successfully get this to look anywhere close to the MF motor oil. Definitely starting to look more like burned up tranny fluid, although they did not come out ideal. Still something you could probably throw and catch a fish on. Now for the fun part, it's really common for me to come across lures like this, either stuck in trees or when we're out magnet fishing. And last year, into the season, we found this Mike Bucca swim bait. bottom of a local lake bed. As you can see, it had been there for probably quite some time because one side was completely worn off. These are not painted, so it's a little bit more difficult to strip these off without ruining those 3D fish scales and some of the design of the bait itself. So we just kind of brought it home, brushed it up with a wire brush, some stripper, got it as clean as possible, started with a couple light coats of primer because today we're using colors with pearl pigments as well as metallic pigments. Harder to work those through the airbrush. We have to thin those paints out. That's always a lot easier way to get those light layers to stick. After we got our pearl base on for the belly, we applied a layer of metallic color shift dragon skin, which is essentially a gold, green to blue color shift that when applied to a white pearl base like this helps us achieve that natural kind of oily fish scale sheen to the bait. On top of that, we're gonna lay down a heavy coat of our metallic color shift green. It's got a really cool gold to green color shift quality in the natural light. We'll do a touch of orange for the belly, hit a custom purple that we made with a pearlized pink and blue that we did a light dusting of on the sides. Follow that up with some vertical stripes in black that we used a stencil of our big bass hunter perch pattern for, and at first glance you can see this is done pretty sloppily. I'll be the first to admit that I am no artist, but if you're living in Bob Ross's world, which is a world I choose to live in, we know that there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. So we're gonna come over the top of that, just kind of shade that in, just like that, we're good to go. Originally, I was going to finish it off with a light scale shading, but the size of the screen that I had was a little too large for this particular bait. I want to have a tighter crisscross pattern for this size swim bait, so decided to leave that off. I still think it turned out looking great regardless, and we went with a gold color eye to get a realistic bluegill appearance. I don't know about you guys, but I think it looked great. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Which one was your favorite today? And if you guys are interested in getting your hands on some custom soft plastics or a hand-painted custom lure, hit me in the link in the video description down below. That will take you to the Kickin' Bass Custom Baits Instagram page where you can shoot me a message. We will get you taken care of. That's gonna do it for today's video. Guys, if you enjoyed it, do me a favor, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell notification. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Until next time, I'm D with Kickin' Bass TV.
Subscribe.